Pulling out a dent or pushing it with PDR? What's going to work for this large dent? Keep watching to find out. So let's inspect the damage we're going to be working with. We're going to be taking care of these two larger dents here today. The first of the two is this large soft dent. It looks like an easy dent to just pop out or quickly pull out with some PDR tools. Just about 6 to 7 inches in size. And then we've got this lower dent. This one here, if we take a closer look, has actually got two sharp creases down in the bottom of this larger dent, which is probably about 4 to 5 inches in overall size. So first up, we're going to be using the Glexo cold glue to pull out this large dent. The reason it is a cold glue is because it is not a hot glue or a hot glue gun, but we do need to warm the panel and we need to stretch out this glue to actually make it more sticky, but we don't want to overheat it. And then I'm going to use it here on my Kiko glue tabs that are specially designed for this cold glue. And once we get it on there and stick it on there, we can take this and stick it to the panel. It doesn't have any setup time like a hot glue, but it does stick pretty well, and we can attempt to pull it out. And as you can see, it is working a little bit here. Taking a closer look, it's pulling it slightly, but I'm still having some trouble. There are some reasons that this isn't working that I'm going to share with you in a minute. So after a few tries of trying to pull this out and pop the dent, it's just not working. And the reason being is because of the way the metal flows. So what we have here is not only just a large dent in the center, but we also have what we call crowns around the edges. And the reason this happens is because when the metal gets hit and pushed in, it doesn't just dent, but the metal flows out. And that creates these crowns around the sides that we have to knock down. Here I have a hammer with a metal rectangular shaped tip with some rubber coating on it, and then I'm also going to switch to a very large rubber ball, and I'm not forcing the dent down here. What I'm actually doing is pushing the metal back into the dented area, and we can see just the vibration in the panel. This is what moves the metal by hitting it here, and it's not going to make a big difference, but it's slowly, as you can see, making just a little bit of difference at bringing this down. Now after having a little bit of progress, we can see it's a little bit smaller. I'm going to try pulling it again with the cold glue just to see if we can get some more of this out. And it's making a little bit of difference, but I'm going to have to continue pulling on it here and then also hammering down the crowns and moving that metal back down into the low spots. Alright, so I've made some pretty good progress with this here. We can see that the knocking down and the pulling with the cold glue actually made a big difference with this damage, but I'm not completely finished yet. And because I'm having some trouble, I think I'm going to switch to pushing the rest of this damage out. So in order to get access behind this box side, we've got to take out this liner underneath and also the fender flare. We've got a few screws and bolts around it, and then also a couple on the inside to pull out. And that will loosen up this liner and we can get it out of the way. So now with the liner out of the way, we can take a look inside here. We can see we do have a little bit of access to the lower half of the box, but right above that there is still a metal panel in the way, but we can definitely get up and around and reach behind there with a special PDR tool. So I've got a 1-inch hard rubber ball. I'm going to attach it to the end of one of my A1 PDR tools, and this tool right here is probably about a 24-inch with a double bend, and it's going to be able to reach up behind that box and up along the side, and I can do some twisting and pushing behind the dent. And we can see here there's a lot of flex and movement in the panel, but I'm actually just being very precise and just pushing down in the low spots of the dent. You can see here, just gently pushing on it with the that large rubber tip, and it's making a little bit of difference, a little bit faster than trying to pull it out over and over again with the cold glue. So it looks like we've made some pretty good progress here. It looks like the damage is almost gone. But as you can see, once we turn the light slightly to an angle, we can actually still see that the damaged area is still low, but also the outside edges, you can see right where I'm hammering here, are actually still high. And I'm got this hammer with the big rubber ball at a slight angle that you can't really tell, but just enough that when I hit this, it's actually forcing the high spots into the low area. So as I continue to do this, it's going to eliminate some of that dent. You can actually see it smoothing out here, but I'm also going to go back into the inside and push up the low spots. So I've made some good progress with this dent. Looks like most of it is almost all the way out, but what I want to do is move on from this and start working on the lower dent. Now, I'm not even going to attempt to try to pull out this dent. This dent here, we can see, has two very sharp creases down in the bottom of this overall larger dent. And it's going to require some special tools to actually push this out and shrink up the metal. So I have my Dentcraft rod with a couple of tip extensions. And on the end here, I have my VIP spiked ball tip. And this is going to allow the dent to shrink up and also push up the damage. So what we are going to use here is a hook on the inside, and this will not only hold the PDR rod, but it's going to allow me to apply leverage and push right on the dent. So I'm going to start pushing on one of the smaller, more shallow creases, and that's going to bring that one up. And then what I want to do is switch over to this larger crease, and I'm pushing just in the bottom, down in the bottom of this crease, and those spikes are shrinking up the bottom and pushing up the damage, slowly bringing up this dent. Now I want to switch to a different Dentcraft tools. This looks like the R4 tip, and this is going to allow me to just be a little bit more precise, push behind the panel here, and just get those little tiny low spots that are left over. And you can see here, this is actually just pushing just in the bottom of those little lows, just small, gentle pushes, slowly bringing up the dent here. So I still have some very small little low spots left, and I want to switch over to this, probably, I think this is the Dentcraft R2 tip, just the very smaller, sharper little end there, and that just allows me to get down into these very small low spots, just gently pushing up, blending in the orange peel, and finishing off this dent. So the final cleanup of the PDR process is what takes the longest for most damage, especially large damage like this. And with this, I'm going to be doing a lot of blending, a lot of knocking down, a lot of metal movement with hammers and soft tip hammers. Also using the soft tip of the R4 with the cherry cap, just going and pushing the low spots out from the inside, moving the metal around to flatten it out, and maybe even possibly a little bit of glue pulling and the cold glue just to bring up some soft spots. So here I'm just pushing in any of the low areas, and then I'm going to go back around and do a lot more blending with the hammer until we get the final finished results that I'm going to show you in just a minute. So now that all the damage is completed, it's time to put back that fender flare and the liner. Just got to put in those few bolts around the flare and a couple of bolts in the back of the liner, and we'll have it all finished up, and then we'll pull it outside and take a look at it. All right, let's first take a look at the damage under the light. We can see that the large dent at the top smoothed out really well with that final pushing. And then the lower damage with that large dent, but the sharp creases down in the bottom, smoothed out really well. You can't even tell that there's any noticeable push marks or waves in the panel.